So, hello there, and welcome back to yet another Night of the Movies podcast. And in these podcasts, I talk all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm giving my thoughts on all 3 seasons of Only Murders in the Building. But just before I do that, I should say what's the start of every podcast I do, which is, if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, hello to my viewers. But prefer to listen to your podcast on Spotify, well, you are in luck, as you can listen to the podcast on Spotify at Night of the Movies on that platform. And if you are already listening to the podcast on Spotify, hello there to podcast listeners, then you can also check this podcast out visually on my YouTube channel at Night of the Movies on that platform as well. Likewise, whatever you're watching or listening to this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the podcast, of course, and please leave me with some feedback on things to improve on in future podcasts, because there's always things to improve on, and feedback is, as ever, much appreciated. So, let's get into it. Only Murders in the Building. In today's podcast, I give my thoughts on all 3 seasons of Only Murders in the Building. I know there's some reports out there that a 4th season is in the works of this show, which makes sense with the way season 3 ends, but at the same time, as of now, as of the day that I'm recording this podcast, a 4th season hasn't been confirmed or hasn't come out. So, yeah. That's what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about all 3 seasons of Only Murders in the Building we've had so far. So, Only Murders in the Building. For the longest time, well, it feels like for the longest time, I've heard phenomenal things about this show. Ever since it began, all the way back in 2021, and it feels weird saying all the way back in 2021, but a hell of a lot has happened, particularly in my life, since 2021. So it feels like this show has been going for perhaps longer than it actually has been, because when I finished the show yesterday and I looked up when the show began airing, I was like, wow, it's only 2021. It feels like it's been around since, I don't know, 2018. So anyway, I've been hearing phenomenal things about this show for quite a while now, and I put it on my watch list, and I have wanted to see it. I have wanted to see what all the fuss was about, but at the same time, though, there is so much must-watch TV out there nowadays. There are so many TV series where people are going saying, you know, you must watch that because it's absolutely brilliant, or that series was phenomenal, that series was fantastic. There's so much must-watch TV nowadays, and there's only so many hours in a day. So I've been catching up on a lot of must-watch TV shows over the past good few months, but at the same time, though, I just haven't had the time to watch this. And I will also admit that I had been slightly put off this show because I'm not a huge fan of any of the 3 main actors in it. I've never really liked Steve Martin that much. I watched Little Shop of Horrors around Halloween, actually, and he's very, very funny in that. You know, I'll be a dentist. He's so good in that. And I like, well, I haven't really liked Martin Short in anything, I'm going to admit. I was about to say I liked Martin Short in the Santa Claus 3. No, I didn't. That just would have been a straight face. That would have just been a straight face lie. I haven't really liked Martin Short too much, and I haven't really liked Steve Martin, and I haven't really seen Selena Gomez in much, and I didn't really think she'd be that good of an actress, I've got to admit as well. And the biggest thing that was compelling me to watch this show was the guest stars I kept hearing that were going into it. I heard like about a year ago now that the show was going to include Paul Rudd and Meryl Streep, and I'm a big fan of them too, so I was thinking, actually, you know what, I might watch the show just to see them 2 in it. I'm not a big fan of Steve Martin, Martin Short, Selena Gomez, but I might watch the show just for the guest stars. But anyway, over the past couple of months, that's what I've been doing. I have been watching all 3 seasons of Only Murders in the Building. And in each season, a murder happens in this building where our main characters live. And our main character played by Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. And I'm pretty sure Steve Martin is a co-creator on the show. So I think that's why Martin Short's in there, and that's why I get some famous guest stars, because Steve Martin's been around for the longest time, and he knows all these actors. He knows all these famous people. But anyway, in each season of Only Murders in the Building, a murder happens in this building in New York. And Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez's characters all team up to make a true crime podcast surrounding their investigation into these murders. And that's pretty much all you need to know about the series if you haven't seen it yet. And honestly, I absolutely love this show. It is so enjoyable to watch. And as what he said, I was not a big fan of Steve Martin, Martin Short, or Selena Gomez going into the show. I love all of them now. They are absolutely brilliant in this series. Steve Martin is so funny. I never ever thought I'd find Steve Martin this funny. And yet, in every single episode of Only Murders, I am laughing so hard because of his character. And the same with Martin Short's character. Martin Short is a revelation in this case. And he's so funny to watch. And Selena Gomez holds her own alongside them two. You would think that she wouldn't, and you would think that she'd be the odd one out, but actually she's really good in it. And the thing is, the show has some really great characters. You know, the main three characters played by Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez actually have some good depth to them. They're not just there for comedy. There is some really good depth with all the main three characters, and there's complexity with all these characters, and at the same time the show is outrageously funny, and it's got some good murder mysteries in there. And even so, I must admit, I guessed who the killer was from episode 1 of season 1 of Only Murders in the Building. I guessed who the killer was in season 1 from the get-go because their name was in the opening titles. I didn't care so much after a while because the series just got better and better and better. Like, if I'm being completely honest, if I'm being frank, when I started this series, when I was watching the first couple episodes, I was thinking, oh, it's okay. I get the point, you know. It's two old guys and there's a young girl and they're trying to solve all these murders, and it's a bit meta. It's a play on the fact that everybody's obsessed with podcasts now. I get the point that this show is trying to make. I understand what it's going for. And I was watching the first couple episodes thinking, it's okay, it's watchable, but I'm just not getting into that much. And then something happened halfway through that first season of Only Murders in the Building where the show got under my skin, and I couldn't believe how much fun I was having with that first series. I need to go back and rewatch the first season now, because I think I'd like it even more than I did the first time. I really think it's going to be one of those shows which it gets better on a rewatch. And I really loved that first season. The second season wasn't as good, but I still had a great time watching it. And same with the third season. You know, I do think the third season is the weakest of all 3 seasons of Only Murders in the Building we've had so far. But that being said, I do think it had a lot of great moments in there, and although it had some uneven parts, I think the good far outweighed the bad in season 3 of Only Murders in the Building. And I just think it's a wildly entertaining show to watch because the writing is there, the characters are all interesting, not only the main characters but also the supporting characters. The supporting characters just grow on you and you end up loving them, even characters which you think are just there for comedy. You end up loving them as they go on. There's like this one character obsessed with cats, and when we first meet him in season 1, I was thinking, oh, he's going to be one of those annoying side characters that just keeps popping up. By season 3, he's there, and I just absolutely loved him. And the show is just really well written. It's a really well written show, and I also really loved how meta the show is too, because in the show, as I've already mentioned, they're doing this true crime podcast as they're solving the murders, as the 3 main characters are solving the murders. And in each season, what I love so much, not so much in season 3, although it was still there a little bit in season 3, but not as much. In each season, you have this meta side as to what's going on, because there's this fan club for the podcast that shows up in seasons 1 and 2, and they are commenting, oh, that episode was a bit filler, that episode didn't really move the investigation further enough. And they're literally characters commenting on what the viewers are commenting on, probably whilst they're watching their show, you know, if you get what I'm saying. There's a fan club in the series that acts as the viewer who are watching this series take place. in their own homes. I'm not sure how much I'm making sense there, but I loved how meta the show is, and I love how the characters in this series refer to things that are happening in each season, because every time a new season of Only Murders in the Building begins, they start a new season of the Only Murders in the Building podcast. That's what the main characters do, and I really like the whole meta side of it all. I particularly loved when you get at the start of every episode, it tells you how many minutes are into the episode. It tells you the title of the episode and then how many minutes you are into it, because each episode is meant to be a sort of recount of the podcast that Steve Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, the characters, have all been doing. And I really love the meta side of everything. Plus, the guest stars are absolutely perfect in this show. I loved every single one of them. Amy Ryan in the first series is chewing up the scenery, and you can tell she's having the time of her life playing the character that she does. And then you also have Tina Fey in that first season. And I love Tina Fey in 30 Rock. I haven't seen much else with her that I've liked her in that much, though. She was good in The Haunting in Venice, which came out earlier this year, but she wasn't great in that. And I've been wanting for a while to see Tina Fey in something and love her in that. And I love her in the show. She has all these guest appearances in seasons 1, 2 and even 3. I mean, she's not in season 3 that much, but she is in there. And I think she is so funny every single time she's on screen. And yeah, I really wish we got to see more of Tina Fey in this series, actually. You know, I want to see more Tina Fey in TV shows, and I want to start loving her again, because she's so good in 30 Rock, and she was the brains behind that show. You know, that was her child. And I've missed her on TV, and then watching her in the show reminded me how good of an actress, how good of a comedic actress she really is. And at the same time, in the first season, you also had Sting, which is one of the... Honestly, it's genius. It's just genius the way they incorporate Sting into the first season of this show. I could not stop laughing in the episode that was focused around Sting. It was absolutely hilarious. I was laughing like a hyena watching that episode, watching the episodes based around Sting in the first season of Only Murders in the Building. And then you get to the second season. Even so, the second season didn't have as many notable guest stars. You still had the likes of Amy Schumer had a small role in there. You know, Cara Delevingne. Someone I'm not a big fan of, but I did enjoy her in this show. And then in the third season, you get Paul Rudd, Meryl Streep, and Matthew Broderick, who are all perfect. I may not have loved season 3 of Only Murders, but I loved all the guest stars. I thought they did I thought they did a grand job with their performances. And Matthew Broderick, he's only really in one episode of season 3. I mean, he has a small appearance in the last episode as well, but he's only really in one episode, and I could not stop laughing. And the funny thing is, when he is in the show, he's playing a version of Matthew Broderick. He's playing a version of himself. And then it started to make me question, wait, how does this world work? How does the world of Only Murders in the Building work? Because if Matthew Broderick is in this world and he's playing himself, then does Steve Martin exist in this world? Does Martin Short exist in this world? Does Meryl Streep exist in this world? Because those actors are not playing themselves in this show, but then Matthew Broderick is. I suppose it's one of those things where you shouldn't think about it too much. But still, it just made me think, how does the world work? But anyway, Matthew Broderick is in, I think it's episode 5 or 6 of season 3 of Only Murders, and he is so funny. And he comes in, and it's literally like he's just willing to do whatever, both actually in the show and behind the scenes. That's what it feels like. And I don't think I've liked Matthew Broderick in anything more than I have in season 3 of this show. And season 3 also had, you know, Meryl Streep and Paul Rudd. And Meryl Streep is very, very good in season 3. I was expecting her to give a different performance when I started season 3. When I heard that she was in season 3, I was like, oh, I bet she's going to be giving a... I actually thought she was going to be the killer. That's what I thought. And not to go on spoilers, but she doesn't turn out to be. And I really liked what they did with Meryl Streep in the third season. I think it was a misdirect casting her. Because I think if you cast Meryl Streep in something, you expect her to be the killer, especially in a show like this, and she wasn't. And I liked the way they used her. In fact, I love the way they used him. Paul Rudd, you can tell he's having a lot of fun just doing something which is just more fun, which is more laid back. I mean, he's having fun playing Ant-Man, sure, but here, he's not having to deal with green screens and blue screens day in, day out, is he? You can tell he's having fun playing alongside his actors, and I loved Paul Rudd in season 3. I mean, I did not like his character, but this tells you how good of a performance Paul Rudd gave. I didn't like his character in season 3, but I liked watching that character because of Paul Rudd's performance, and that tells you when an actor is doing. That shows you that, if you don't like a character but you enjoy the actor who's playing it, you enjoy the performance, that tells you how much you actually enjoying their performance in the show. If you follow my thinking, I think I even lost myself there. I loved all the cameos, all the guest appearances in the show. I thought they just worked perfectly. It's probably something that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but yeah, there were so many great guest stars in this show. And I will say that the show isn't incredible overall. Like, I do think it has some problems in the writing. There are characters we meet in season 1 and season 2 who are forgotten about as soon as that season has ended. Like, in the first season, you get Tie-Dye Guy. If you've seen the first season of Only Murders, you know exactly who I'm talking about. In the first season, you get Tie-Dye Guy. He's completely forgotten about when you get to season 2. And then in season 2, Steve Martin's character basically starts to have this father-daughter relationship with one of his ex's daughters. And then you get to season 3, and I'm pretty sure she isn't even mentioned, the daughter character. I'm pretty sure she's not even mentioned when you get to season 3. And I didn't think season 3 was as strong as it could have been. It had some uneven parts, and it felt like they didn't really know how to develop the main characters to the point that it made for some interesting choices, to say the least. Like, they changed Martin Short's character in season 3, and they changed Steve Martin's character to make him more of a comedic relief, and I'm not sure if all of that worked. That being said, season 3 though still had a lot of highs and still had some really great emotional moments and some really good writing. And I didn't guess who the killer was in season 3, and I did with season 1, and I did to a degree with season 2, but I didn't guess who the killer was with season 3, and that was something I really liked about that. And I did still really enjoy watching season 3. Just when I look back in it, it has more problems than the previous 2 seasons. But I'm still looking forward to season 4 though, because the show is wildly entertaining, and even so it does have all those problems, even so it does have issues, you don't care about the issues too much because you just have such a good time watching every single episode of the show. I mean, sure, some episodes are better than others, but you get that with any TV show. With any TV show, some episodes will be better than others. That's how TV shows work, because usually when you get to the finale, it's, they're pulling out all the stops. That's what showrunners usually do, or writers usually do. When you get to the finale of any series, when you get to a season finale or a series finale, the showrunners usually put out all the stops, and so it makes the last couple episodes of the season of any show more memorable. And that happens quite a bit in Only Murders. Like, I do think the last couple episodes of each season are more memorable than, say, some of the middle episodes. That being said, each episode, though, is funny, and it's entertaining, and it's well written. The mysteries are actually really compelling and engaging. You get yourself into the mysteries. I'm not somebody who is a big fan of murder mysteries. I haven't really seen many murder mystery TV shows in my time. Off to my head, I've seen the BBC Sherlock series with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. One of my all-time favourite shows, if not my all-time favourite show. Jonathan Creek, I really loved. And I've also seen Broadchurch with David Tennant and Olivia Colman. I am struggling after that, though. I don't watch many murder mystery TV shows because a lot of the time I'm sitting there in episode 1 going, in 7 episodes we're going to find out who the killer is. Great, I have to endure 7 hours of TV to find out who did the murder. And I don't like doing that too much. And it's actually been a reason in the past that I've given up on murder mystery TV shows because I don't want to sit around waiting to see who did the murder. Yet in this show, I didn't care so much who did the murder. I was just having a really good time watching it. You know, it's just a really great watch. That's what this show is. And it has its problems. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but it is one of the most enjoyable TV shows on TV right now. It really surprised me how much it worked to me because, like I said before, I was not a fan of Steve Martin Short, or Selena Gomez going into the show. They're the main 3 stars of the show. I love them more now, and I think this show is outrageously funny. I think it's so well written, well directed as well, which is something I've mentioned yet. It's a well directed series, and I think it has some very good visual engagement in there. I also think the show is emotionally engaging, and it's even exciting at times, and it's moving at times, and it's really clever too. It's something I really didn't expect, and the show just grows and grows as it goes on. If my review has somehow convinced you to watch the show, do stick with it. Don't just watch the first couple of episodes and go, I'm done with it. No, stick with it. Each episode is only about 35 minutes long, and I can tell you now, it gets better, and it gets better, and yeah. It's a show which just, I don't know. It's fun to watch, and it takes your mind off the day you're having. And that is why I ultimately really enjoyed it, because it's fun escapism. And at the end of the day, what's wrong with that? And so, all in all, I'm going to say that all 3 seasons of Only Murders in the Building, I'm going to say that the show overall, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. If I was to rank each season individually, if I was to give a rating to each season individually, should I say, I'd say that Season 1 is a 9 out of 10. I'd give Season 1 a 9 out of 10. Season 2, I'd give probably about an 8.7 out of 10. Wasn't as good as Season 1, but it still had so many great moments, and I still loved watching Season 2. And even though I didn't love Season 3, it was still wildly entertaining, and I'd give it probably an 8 out of 10. Which is a step down from Season 2, but it was still good TV. And sometimes it's nice to watch a show that is just entertaining, you know? Not every show has to be hard-hitting and touching on all these really important messages and thematic sort of stuff. You know, not every show has to be so serious and downhearted. Some shows can just be enjoyable. Yeah, they can have the plot, they can just be enjoyable. And that's what Only Murders in the Building is. It's funny, it's well written, the mysteries are good, it's a really good murder mystery show. If you're into murder mysteries, I'd definitely recommend you check this out. It's also got some great music, which is one thing I've mentioned yet. I particularly love the use of music in Season 3. And it's just a wildly entertaining murder mystery series. And that is why I loved Only Murders in the Building, all 3 seasons of Only Murders in the Building overall. And so, all in all, as what he said, I'm going to say that Only Murders in the Building seasons 1 through to 3, I'm going to say that they're an 8.5 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that is it for today's podcast. If you have seen Only Murders in the Building, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Yeah, I'd love to hear what people think of the show. Maybe you didn't love it, and if you didn't, that's completely fair. But if you did love it, please let me know why in the comment section below as well. Whatever your thoughts are on Only Murders in the Building, please let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast. I look forward to many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. As already said, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast, and I suppose this is it. So I will see you guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye.